this yours?
Oh, okay. Awesome. All right, we're gonna do our last quick take for block 6, and there'll be a little bit of a break, and then at 11:30 we'll start with block 7. Today we have, well, for our final quick take, Joel Sheagren. Joel brings over 30 years of production and filmmaking experience, including a Clio, a film on Hulu, and 21 years of FASD parenting. Joel is motivated by strong stories, compassion, and empathy towards people diagnosed with FASD and those who love them. Join me in welcoming Joel.
Thank you. Is this on? Thank you. So my title of my talk is called Darkness to Hope. I'm based in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and I am the father of a son with an FASD. So by show of hands, how many people here knew what an FASD was before this conference? A few people. Yeah, so you don't count, Spencer. He is a champion here in Florida on this issue. So let's solve the world's problems here in the next 10 minutes then. So I have 3 points to my talk. I want to provide some facts, some understanding around the hidden nature of this issue, and I'll bundle the supports and understanding, and I'll weave my story into it. But let's start with a definition. So FASD represents fetal alcohol spectrum disorder. It is caused solely by alcohol use during pregnancy. It's the nomenclature changed about 20 years ago. FAS, or fetal alcohol spectrum, which is the physical trait to know that there's a disability, changed to the umbrella of FASD. And so FAS is under that umbrella. The alcohol attacks both the brain and the body, but primarily the body is the kidneys, the heart, the liver, the immune system, those types of things. But the brain piece is really what is known around FASD. So it is the world's #1 developmental disability. Its impact is about 14% of our US population. I'll talk about the prevalence and the impact as two different things here in a minute. It's a very, very complex issue. Given the comorbidities behind this, and alcohol does not have any prejudice. It is remarkably impactful for our society in any way. So our family story and our understanding of FASD began with an adoption of these two beautiful children. I didn't expect that. Oh, shoot. My wife and I were asked out of the blue to adopt. We weren't on a list, not even thinking about adoption. And we said yes without hesitation. And we brought our children home from the hospital. The ask was the 1st of August in 2002, and we brought our son home 2.5 months later. But we were in the dark. We did not understand. We knew that the birth mother drank alcohol during pregnancy, but we just had no idea why our son would sleep an hour in a 24-hour span, why he didn't understand consequences. I'm sorry, I just did not expect this. And why didn't he understand the consequences? Why did he just get so dysregulated so easily, right? And that was contrasted by, he's really smart. His IQ is way up there. He's excelled at soccer. He's super creative. And it took us 14 years of being in the dark, and his behavior started to escalate in a lot of different ways, and the police were involved, unfortunately, a few times, and but when we sought out a diagnosis under the umbrella of the alcohol, trying to figure out what was going on and did alcohol have anything to do with this. And so that really put us on a path because now we started to understand the root cause behind what was going on, and we could find some supports behind that to help him along. So it's hidden in our society. It's 5% of our US population. It is more prevalent than autism, but the awareness is remarkably way down here in its understanding. So did you know that alcohol does more damage to a developing child than cocaine? So it stays hidden because professionals are missing it. And we as parents don't tell our stories because they're incredulous. You don't want to be known for that bad kid, right? And telling your stories. And so our stories have not been told, and there are starting to be more and more of us that are speaking out. This issue is hidden within the church and within the schools. We consider those the bad kids. Those are the ones causing the problems in the back and not asking the questions that we need to be asking. So to start to understand how to identify this a little bit, think of a child who's 16 years old, but socially they're much younger, and their emotional and their adaptive skills are younger yet. They're hearing just about every other word. They're not following along in your lessons. They just don't quite understand what's going on, and so they fake it, and they get disruptive and those kinds of things. It's common for the sensory issues, and I had no idea that rules could be abstract thinking. There's rules on the soccer field. There's rules at home. What's soccer have to do with all things that help? So it's part of that adaptive skill is those things. Our kiddos are remarkably creative. When you're watching movies at the theater or at Netflix, more than likely you are watching somebody that just might have an FASD. I could list off a whole bunch of people. So they think outside the box. They're incredibly loyal and friendly. Supports. I think of this as the fruit of the Spirit: love, patience, joy, peace, kindness. They trump our curriculum, our interventions. Those are incredibly important, but when we show love and kindness, it really makes a difference. We need to be the hospital, so to speak. We need to provide the supports and the healing for our kiddos and not be the courtroom. So, let me mention first, before we go to questions, if folks have some, I do have a resource. It's a basic page. We are updating the website. As a filmmaker, we have a comprehensive project going on that includes a novel and a book and some documentaries and a feature film, et cetera, and so we'll be updating the website and making the resources a lot more robust here probably by the end of July or the end of June. But to frame the prevalence and the impact. So the prevalence is considered with inside a box of behaviors and adaptability as a basic kind of understanding. Outside the box, we don't count the children who don't make it through the pregnancy or into infancy because of the alcohol. That's outside the prevalence, but it's still the impact, right? And then the other side is the mental health side. You've got anxiety and, like I have right now, depression and processing speed things, and those types of things are part of the impact that we're not catching that need to be a part of the prevalence, I think, at some point in terms of the spectrum. So does anybody have questions? It's a new topic. I know that it's not been spoken of before. How would you like to do that? Does anybody have a question? Yeah. How is the diagnosis done? I can repeat the question, if that's okay. How is the diagnosis done? So it's a 2-day process, something like that. It's about 6 hours on over 2 different days. It takes in the account of the parents and the child. and they're measuring the adaptability skills, their social skills, those types of things. Our son has a dual diagnosis of autism because of the social side, and part of that is the professionals aren't quite understanding the full spectrum and how the alcohol rewires the brain so that that rigidity and those social things that are found within, there's crossover for autism, but it really needs its own identification so that it has better support. It's not included in the DSM-5 at this point, so it's not even recognized at that level. And I don't quite get that because the CDC, these numbers come from the CDC. So, yeah. I didn't expect this. So his question is, my son's 21 right now. His kids are under 10, and he has twins. How did I make it so far? I've got an amazing wife. Faith. And just being really, really deliberate about, about where to find the supports. So, you're in our community. We talk, share once in a while. I find that with other folks that have the same. So, caregivers, support.
Is there a community then for caregivers with FASD?
Yeah, there's a number. So the question is caregivers. There are a number of Facebook groups. Most of them have a name. Our project is called Embraced. And I chose a positive name because I embrace my son. And I'm in the world of advertising for 30 years, and I know that sponsors want a positive name if we're going to be seeking that. Most of those groups are called Broken With. Some of them have Hope, FASD Hope. So it's a mix of support groups with different types of names.
Can I do a follow-up then?
Yeah.
What are other ways that people support you as a caregiver?
So the question is, how do I find other support? Well, my wife, for number one, I find myself on Facebook groups. My wife is part of FASD Hope. For Tuesday nights, it's a faith-based group. For that support, I just got back from a conference in Seattle on FASD. I was collecting some more interviews for our documentary portion of what we're doing, and I found a number of people to reach out to keep that going. A lot of research. I'm online probably 10 hours a week, something like that. I'm co-authoring a parent book, how to support our kiddos. So we share a lot of stories and supports.
When's your book coming out?
We'll have a draft of book one. It's going to be a 5-part book series. It's going to call, we're using the name Embraced. And so it's embracing butterflies, our beautiful, resilient, and sometimes fragile neurodiverse kids. The co-author, has 2 kids with autism and 1 with FASD. And so we jump on Zoom and we support each other. And so probably before this fall, we also have a novel called Embracing Zach that should be released by this fall. Zach represents the spectrum of this issue, and he's a fictional character based on real life stories because you just don't want to tell our story. So we've come up with a fictional character, and that's now a novel, 350 page, and we've based a script for a feature film with the same name. And I have probably 100 hours of interviews, and we've based those, Zach's character on those real life stories. So I think just Writing has also been part of getting it out of my system because it can be really maddening sometimes, and I have why this isn't known, but you have to frame it around love and support, and writing that out really helps. So
You write venting or you write like encouraging?
encouraging it very, very, very much so. I don't hit send or finish if it's coming out the wrong way. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, that's really awesome. So Spencer is mentioning, how do I frame our kids' future? Because the statistics are 19 times more prevalent, or 19 times more likely that our kids will experience criminal justice system than kids without an FASD. And so it's a big, big concern. How are our kids going to turn out once they go outside the house, right? And so part of that framing for him to stay positive is to do a positive journal. And that's a really, really, I'm going to pick that up. We talk about it. Geez, he actually got up and did something that he was supposed to. He remembered something that he was supposed to. But I'm going to start journaling that. That's really good. So, yeah. Yeah.
How did you finally, because it's sometimes hidden, like our son is like, at 5 is ADD. They did the sleep set. How did you finally find someone, a practitioner, to actually diagnose this?
Yeah, so the question is, how did we find a diagnosis? The state of Minnesota is actually pretty robust in the Twin Cities, and so it wasn't that hard for my wife to find somebody who could do that. And we've had 3 diagnoses done in the psychological assessment done. And the first one came from a nonprofit that specializes in awareness and support and prevention around FASD. But not every state has that. And I think that the resource page, if I go back to that, I have the states listed. If I don't, I think you can find them. So where you can find that, Florida is just opened. If you're here in Florida, it just opened. Um, yeah, to get the diagnosis. That's Spencer, yes. So I'm way over on my time, but we've got 4 minutes left before the session ends. Am I okay? Okay. This is how you can get a hold of me. We are moving forward on the documentary. So the documentary is Embrace Truth About Fetal Alcohol Spectrum Disorder. And we have a sample. It's not a trailer by any means, but it's most certainly a sample of some of the interviews that we're collecting. But we've created this character called Zach, who has FASD, and he's the hero. And it's a coming of age in a little bit of way, but he's the underdog who wins the day. And we want to take Zach, and that's the last several months of his high school career or experience. And in that setting, it's a last-ditch effort for his parents to find hope of him graduating. We went to 9 schools to get our son graduated. That was supported by, I don't know how many after-school programs, how many therapies, and not one professional knew anything about it and pointed us. And we talked about the alcohol, you know, as part of that piece, but nobody pointed back. So it was really my wife championing the diagnosis. So anyway, I'd like to take Zach's story and put him into the documentary like a docudrama from birth to the high school. A mother gave us 3 interviews about their child's struggle with the school, an inciting moment, if you will, of the shame of a school and how they handled their daughter. And so I just kept coming at it from different angles, and so I wrote a school story a couple years ago around that to apply for a grant, a film grant. And a gal by the name of Jody was kind of my cheerleader in that process. And she called me last August and said, "Can I snag your school story and write a novel?" And it's the last, and it picks up at that story, and I cheerleaded her all the way through, and a few other people did too. So we've become very collaborative in what we're doing. The script is written by a gentleman by the name of Justin Overlander. Justin lives in the Twin Cities area. He was the original producer for The Chosen, and I knew he stepped away from The Chosen, and we had coffee, and he gave me because I wanted him on board. I wanted somebody outside of the community to understand this, and he politely said no, but he took the school story and the deck, and he called me a week later and said, "I have to be a part of this. I had no idea." So the script and the book have fed each other. We're very, very collaborative in what we're doing on this. We need some attention around this issue. It is so remarkably hidden when it's so prevalent. So it's a comprehensive film project to be able to try to get attention in different media channels, if you will. So, yeah. Oh, you guys are awesome. Awesome. Yeah, that's really, yeah. So our kiddos do get it. They just need small steps to get over the hurdle of things. Did you have a question earlier? So the question is, how do we support our kiddos in a Christian camp or a family setting?
Would a camp specifically for all the families
Right.
were brought together and there was a retreat program for those families? I'm just trying to figure out what we can do as a church to create help for the families.
Anybody have some suggestions here? The question is, how do we support family camp experiences with our kids? You have some experience in that. You want to come with the mic here? Here, why don't I come to you? I'll let him answer. He's in that space.
Yeah, so I work with Guy Light. We work with families who experience disability, not just FASD. And yeah, I would say amen. I think the more that we can create contexts for respite for families, the better. And, there's a shared story, just as Spencer and Joel have a shared story with FASD. These families, when we get them together, whether I have a son with Down syndrome, when we get families together and we do what's called a parent talk, the first day, and lots of emotion. As you got emotional, Joel, that's a good thing, right? And a lot of times, just speaking for as a dad, right, we tend to stuff that, right? But to be able to get together with other men and other women who share a common story, and to be able to be honest and be vulnerable is huge. And our ministry, we really try to point people to Christ, because FASD can't be what sustains your family. Down syndrome can't be what sustains my family. It has to be Jesus. And so we try to encourage families to, yes, this is a consuming reality for you, but Christ is bigger. He is our treasure, and we need one another. And so I would amen the Christian camp. That retreat experience is it's a mountaintop experience that hopefully will foster those relationships that can last a lifetime. Yeah. Specifically for FASD, yeah. I mean, I think it would be great, because I think with the invisible disabilities, to use that word, I think it's a unique challenge. My son has Down syndrome and he's cute, and he'd be your best friend, but with FASD it comes with different challenges, because they maybe look typical and you're like, why is this kid behaving this way? So, yeah.
Can I add something? For the camp thing, I know other people have talked about it here, but really focusing on the marriage. I know for my sister-in-law, I have a nephew with FASD and ADHD, and I know that for my sister and brother-in-law, a lot of the times they are separated, and one of them stays with my nephew, and then the other one is with my other nephews, and so they're not just the two of them a lot, and so doing maybe even a marriage retreat would also be a really great way to support, and for my personal experience, doing something like that.
Great, thank you, Joel. That was really, really, really informational. I also wanted to say we will be publishing a blog post from Joel tomorrow on Key Ministries, Special Needs Parenting, if you want to read more, and with all the links and everything. Hopefully you got the website as well. So that's the end of our block.